Hello, everybody, and welcome to my on-demand webinar, How to Train for an Ironman in a Year. Now, this is an enormous undertaking. I really want to help you understand during this webinar just how much has to go in to be able to train for an Ironman in only 1 year. And the idea is for this that you are starting from scratch. You're not somebody who has a history in running, although, we're going to touch on that. But assuming that you are reasonably, new to triathlon, but you signed up to an Ironman, whether it was out of blind optimism or whether you've been bullied into it by some friends or you had a few drinks and thought it sounded like a great idea, whatever the reason is, you might have a year to train for this Ironman and go, wow, like how do I even start? What's involved? So I'm going to take you through the equipment used. I'm going to take you through some training methods. I'm going to touch on nutrition, all of the basics for you to understand. Now, I could probably run a 12-hour webinar on everything you need to know about Ironman. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and keep it maximum 90 minutes. But I want to take you on a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the basics to help you then understand and know how you can go on and learn more. So, let's get cracking. Now, a little bit of a heads up is that as some of you who know who listen to my podcast, the Age Group Triathlon podcast, subscribe if you haven't already. I am the owner of a greyhound. She is called Poppy. She is a rescue dog, and she does like to make an appearance sometimes in the episode. So if you do hear the sound of a collar shaking, if you do hear some strange noises in the background, that's probably just her, having a bit of a scratch or rolling over. She's normally pretty good, but I do apologise if she gets a little bit noisy at one point or two. So, about me. I'm a professional triathlon coach, have been since 2016. It's been over 10 years now that I've been helping people, primarily complete their first Ironman or 70.3. That's somewhat of sort of the niche that I found myself in. Over 50 triathlon finishes to my name, and then there's all sorts of running events that I've done as well, and cycling and swimming. I've got a few wins in there, quite, proud to say. British Triathlon High Performing Coach, that's the highest level you can be. Ironman Certified Coach, and I've got separate qualifications in strength and nutrition because I want to be the whole rounded package. I want people who come to me for advice, for me to be able to help them to answer their questions. Not just ramble something about probably doing some squats or eating flapjack on the bike. I want people to be able to really help people understand. So, you can train for an Ironman in a year. But if you were my friend or my family member, I'd say, look, taking on an Ironman 70.3, a half distance, for the first year is probably the best way to go about it. Because you'll have plenty of time to build up, you'll be less prone to injury, you will be able to go faster at your Ironman, you'll be able to enjoy the process a bit more, you'll be less stressed, there's less on the line. Because if we're training for an Ironman in a year, if we lose a month or 6 weeks because of illness, that can really throw us off. So by doing a 7.3 first, we are buying ourselves a little bit of extra time. And I've got a link down below this webinar to the equivalent webinar for an Ironman 7.3. But if your heart is set on Ironman, or you've already entered and you've got no choice, here's what it's going to take. So in case you got lost, what is an Ironman? So in my eyes, it's the greatest test of one-day fitness on the planet. Now, you have events that are multi-day, like the Marathon des Sables, running across the Sahara Desert. You've got double Ironmans that take part over several days. You have all of these sort of tests of fitness, which could be argued to be more grueling, more impressive. But for a triathlon, mastering swimming, cycling, and running in a single day, to me, that's the greatest achievement on the planet. And when you chat to people and you can sort of you mention to them, I try not to mention it too quickly because it's my job. It does come up. Say to them, "Oh, yeah, oh yeah, I do Iron Man." And a lot of people they go, "Oh, I don't know what that is." They ask me about it. I said, "What is it?" Well, it's a 3.8 or 2.4 mile, sorry, 3.8 kilometer or 2.4 mile swim. It's a 180 kilometer bike, 112 miles, and it's a 42.2 kilometer run, 26.2 miles. That is a marathon. You do them, all three of them back to back. And people go, Wow. In one day? Yeah. With no breaks? Yeah. And when you tell people that, people are interested. That's not to say they'll immediately be impressed. That's not to say that they will fawn over you and start asking you all these questions and treat you as being some kind of demigod. But the base reaction I get is, oh, fair play. You're never going to get anything less than that. You're going to gain a level of respect for becoming an Iron Man, from being that finisher, from having that medal to your name. It really is something that money can't buy. No matter how much money you have, you cannot you cannot buy an Ironman finish. You can get a space age bike, you can hire a coach, you can throw money at the problem, but you still got to do the work. And that is what makes the Ironman so reputable. That's what makes it legendary. Is that there's no shortcuts. There are things you can do to make it a bit easier, but there is no shortcuts towards completing that goal. And you have 17 hours, sometimes less, to be able to complete this. Some people, when they are out and they are researching events, they will fail to check what the length of the event is, and some races are 15-hour cut-offs. This is often the race organizer being able to get a permit from the local government, local authorities to be able to have the roads open for as long as they'd like, or sort of roads closed for as long as they'd like, have the course open. And as a result, they have to shorten that so they get people across the line faster. As a result, you can get some races that are 15 hours, some that are 16 hours. Look at the profile of a course before you sign up. How hilly is it? Hillier races, unsurprisingly, will take you longer than flat races. And really try to sort of do a little bit of research, try to understand the challenge that you're taking on. Before we get going, some basic assumptions. That you have at least 12 hours a week to train. Now, you can get by in less than that, but realistically, I think 12 hours for most people should be about right, especially if we're training from scratch. Now, I did it on less than 12 hours when I did my first Ironman, but I'd already been in triathlon for 9 years at that point. Okay, sorry, 7 years. I'd been in triathlon for 7 years, so I had a huge amount of base training behind me. You will need to have a base level of athleticism. Okay, if you are somebody who just sort of really struggles, gets out of breath, going upstairs, struggles to lift heavy objects, things like that, then we do have to sort of look at this and go, is an Ironman really possible in a year? Probably not. Is an Ironman possible? Yes. There are very few people out there who I'd say you've got no chance of completing an Ironman. Obviously, some people have health conditions, disabilities, all of these issues that could surround, their ability to train for an Ironman in a year. But if you don't have that same level of athleticism, then training for 70.3 might actually be the safer bet. Sorry. You should be able to swim one length of a pool, run for 1 minute, and cycle for 30 minutes. If you can do that, I can make you an Ironman finisher in a year. Okay? Now, that's not to say it's a guarantee. There are never any guarantees. But this is sort of the base level 1 year out that I think somebody needs to be able to achieve those goals. And you should also be injury free. If you're taking on a challenge such as training for an Ironman in a year, you can't afford to be unable to run because you've got a dodgy knee. You can't, really struggle with your swimming because you've got a problem with your shoulder. Okay, we need to be going into this injury free with a fair bit of time and a base level of athleticism. Okay, because if we don't, we're really going to have an uphill battle. Essential equipment. Let's go through what we need for each of these three disciplines because getting the equipment is absolutely critical. So swimming, you need goggles. You can swim without goggles, of course, but if you are trying to swim without goggles, if you can't put your face in the water, that makes you so much slower, and you will really struggle to make the cutoff, which is 2 hours 20 minutes on the swim. You've only got 2 hours and 20 minutes to swim 3,800 meters or 2.4 miles. Okay, so if you have no goggles, you are going to really struggle to make that. So just get yourself some goggles and get used to swimming with your face in the water. You need a wetsuit. Very few rate, actually, I'd say about 20% of Ironman events, they will either be wetsuits banned or they'll be borderline. There are some races, such as Ironman Frankfurt, where some years it's wetsuits, some years wetsuits are banned. Okay, it really does depend a huge amount on the event that is that you're entered into, whether or not you'll need the wetsuit. But chances are, even if the race itself, the wetsuits are banned at, you may well need a wetsuit to train in for that warmth to allow you to start getting into the water earlier in the season. Because swimming in open water is almost a completely different sport to pool swimming. Swimming costume, so a one piece for the ladies, such as the one you can see here in this image, is the most popular option. But hey, if you'd rather wear a two piece, that's absolutely fine. A swimming hat, you will need to wear one on race day, so you might as well get used to wearing one in training. And you need a pool to swim in. Ideally 25 meters. Now, longer is no problem. 20 meters is fine. It's okay. I've trained in a 20-meter pool. Once you start looking under 20 meters, once we're looking at 15-meter pools, 12-meter pools, these really are too short for meaningful training. Onto the bike. The equipment that we need, we're going to need a road bike. So that is what something may term like a racing bike. It's a bike with those dropped handlebars like the one in the photo. It's not particularly a great angle, if I'm honest. It's got skinny tyres, it's got no suspension, and it's lightweight. So these are the kinds of bikes you see people riding in the Tour de France. If you are looking to compete on a mountain bike, sorry, mountain bikes are banned at Ironman events. If you're looking to take on the event on a hybrid bike or gravel bike or anything like that, you are going to really struggle. You're going to be having a massive uphill battle just to make that bike cut off. Road bikes, they start new around about £700 these days. About $1,000, give or take, about €900 is where you'll get like your really good bike. And I don't recommend spending less than this new. If you can get something second hand, that's very different. But if you pay much less than that for a brand new bike, the parts aren't going to be designed to last. It's going to be a bike that is built for people who go out occasionally when the weather's really nice. I bought one for riding around London, so I didn't mind so much when it got nicked. But well, if it got nicked, it didn't end up getting nicked in the end. But it's the components, they're just not built to last. You'll need to spend money repairing it. It's just what a mechanic friend of mine calls a bike-shaped object. And that's a little bit gatekeeping, if I'm honest. But it is a false economy to get something like that. It's not really a proper bike that's going to last and be good quality. You will need a helmet. It's within the rules of triathlon that you need to wear a helmet. So you might as well wear one in training, keep yourself safe. I had a massive crash. I'm not going to say, oh, the helmet saved my life. But I don't know what would have happened to me. I could have suffered a serious concussion at the very least if I wasn't wearing my helmet. Shoes and pedals. Yes, you can be spending £700 on a bike that doesn't come with pedals. The reason for this is there are lots of different standard of pedals, and there's no point in paying for something that you may have to replace if you don't like that standard. Shoes which clip into the pedals. You can see shoes in the image here that this chap is wearing. They are nice and lightweight. They have stiff soles to allow for improved power transfer, and they lock into the pedals. So that as you're pedaling along, you get to use all the muscles in your leg a bit more. You get a bit more of an upstroke rather than just stamping down on the pedals. You twist your feet out of the pedals to get your feet out and to allow you to to dismount your bike. But they really do help you accelerate and ride more safely. One of the bigger benefits is that when you push down on the pedals, if your feet fall off, the pedals don't then spin around and hit you in the shin. I think we've all experienced that as children. An indoor trainer, I'm going to touch on this in a bit more detail, but this is a machine that you're going to be riding your bike on indoors to allow you to ride in all weathers and all weather conditions. Now, the turbo trainer is going to be an essential because if you're a year out from your event, you're going to be riding through winter. And there are unless you live in the tropics, okay, there are very few people who are able to train through the winter, absolutely no problem whatsoever. So we are going to need to be looking at an indoor trainer for us to get. Now, I recommend a smart trainer. You can get these, for around about kind of like £400 new these days. They don't break the bank as much as they did when they first came out. You're also going to need tools, lubricants, cleaning products, all of this to be able to look after and to maintain your bike. You are going to be investing money in this bike and you need to look after that. Now, when you look at all of those, items. This is why I recommend against somebody spending loads of money, like really pushing their budget out on the bike. Go, well, I was looking to spend 700 quid, but the salesman really pushed me to spend 1,000. And now I haven't got money for the helmets, for the shoes, for the indoor trainer, for this, for that. And something that's not on the list actually is cycling kit. You don't want to train in your tri-suit, your race suit. You will need to get yourself some bib shorts and a jersey. The weighting of the jersey that you're using is going to depend on the weather conditions. So it's going to depend on whether you are planning to ride outside during the winter and during the rough weather, or whether you're just going to hide away on the turbo trainer. On the run, not nearly as much. Running shoes, obviously a GPS watch, which can be used in all three disciplines, but comes into its own really on the run. A hat or a visor to keep the sun out of your face. Most triathlons are held at the warmest time of the year. Well, maybe not the warmest in some cases where it's absolutely sweltering, but it will be held in warm weather. And you will also need to have clothing for all conditions because treadmill running doesn't really scratch the itch for many people. And heading out in the winter, running isn't nearly as bad as cycling because you don't get the same wind chill factor. And running through the rain, yeah, it kind of sucks at times. It doesn't suck as much as being pelted with rain and wind when you're cycling and just getting really wet and miserable. When we're running, we do find ourselves at a sort of a higher temperature. Other training essentials and, well, racing essentials. A tri-suit, such as the one you see the chap wearing, it's a one-piece suit. It has a chamois pad in the shorts that allows you to make you more comfortable on the saddle. It can be used in swimming. It goes under your wetsuit. If you're wearing one, you can be used on the bike and be used on the run. It's got small pockets for you to put nutrition in. They don't have big pockets because if it's a non-wetsuit swim, those large pockets would create a lot of drag. But a tri-suit, you can do a full change into from your swimming kit into your cycling kit into your running kit, but most people will use a tri-suit. A sort of a caution here is that when you are going to be training to race for these distances, you do need to get the cycle-specific clothing. I know it's going to be awkward for some people who don't feel comfortable being in skin-tight lycra. If that's really an issue for you, you can get yourself your padded shorts, your lycra shorts, and you can put some baggy shorts over the top. But please don't try to ride for 180 kilometers in just a pair of running shorts, okay? You're going to destroy your groin area, and it's not going to be pretty. I've seen people really bleeding from trying that. And you're going to need some hydration systems. So whether that is a bottle at the front of the bike, a torpedo at the front of the bike, two bottles at the back, whether you're going to put water bottles on the bike frame itself. Lots of considerations to be made that I'm not going to go into here because I could go off on a huge tangent about hydration. But you need to make sure that you have all of these ahead of the race and preferably for training. Let's talk about the Ironman swim. 3,800 meters in open water. And you've only got 90 minutes. Sorry, no, you've got 2 hours, 20 minutes. Getting mixed up with distances there. You've got 2 hours and 20 minutes to complete your Ironman swim, which is relatively generous in the grand scheme of things. But time that you spend in the water is time you lose on the bike. The faster you get out of the water, the more time you have on the bike. You'll be swimming non-stop. There's going to be nowhere for you to stop and hold on to floating platforms. You can hold on to a kayak as long as you don't make forward process with that. Or a stand-up paddleboarder. This will be here from the water safety crew. And speaking of water safety crew, if you are in the event and you have a panic and you want to stop, then you can simply wave down the water safety crew. A kayaker will come and help you. You can hold on to their kayak, and a motorized boat will come out, pick you up, chuck you in, and take you to shore. The Ironman swim is broad. I mean, Ironman. It's a relatively safe sport in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately, there is the occasional fatality, and it's often people with undiagnosed heart conditions who suffer a cardiac incident whilst they are swimming with their face in the water. They lose consciousness. It's very sad. So before you start training for Ironman, I do recommend that you get a full health screening. go see your doctor, just, try and get that sign off to make sure there's nothing there lurking underneath. Because most people who have heart conditions only find out when they encounter an issue. And we want to avoid that when we're going to be pushing our body to its limit. You're going to be swimming in cold, dark water. There's going to be no black line to follow. You're going to be staring down into the murky depths. You're going to be in close proximity to hundreds, if not thousands, of other swimmers. Okay, as you can see in this photo, lots of people swimming in close proximity to each other. This isn't just you toddling along at your local leisure centre. This is a pretty intense swimming event. You can swim any stroke, with the exception of backstroke, because that can be mistaken for somebody lying on their back and calling for help. But breaststroke, butterfly, or front crawl, otherwise known as freestyle, absolutely fine. You don't need to be able to swim freestyle. I highly recommend that you swim freestyle. But if you would rather just focus on swimming breaststroke, if you just want to get the swim out the way, again, that's absolutely fine. Most races allow wetsuits, which provide warmth and buoyancy. If you're in a wetsuit, you cannot physically sink. Sometimes I'll be swimming in a lake and I'll try to swim down under the water to be able to reach something I can see at the bottom that somebody might have dropped, and I cannot actually swim under the water for more than a few seconds before the wetsuit drags me up. You can roll onto your back, lie there and be happy as Larry for hours on end, okay? Wetsuits are a real safety blanket. If your race has a history of sometimes being non-wetsuit, again, do your research, find these things out. If you have an issue of this being a possibility, you need to practice swimming without your wetsuit. Swim training, how do we begin to, how do we even begin to prepare for this kind of challenge? So if you have a year, you've got time to learn freestyle. And I highly recommend that you do. I don't want you to just wave the white flag and go, oh, I'll just swim breaststroke. It's so much easier. No, I want you to learn to swim freestyle. When you're training, we're going to be focusing on distance, drills, speed work. Okay, so that is, our training isn't just endless lengths. Okay, we're going to be doing longer swims. We're going to be doing drills to work on our technique. We're going to be doing speed work, do intervals, sprints. We're going to try and mix things up. When it comes to different elements of technique, we've got our breathing. How is it we breathe in the water? If you look at this image of this chap breathing here, you can see he likely looks very different to how you breathe currently. He's got one goggle submerged under the water. He's lifting his head the minimal amount to breathe. If our breathing is wrong, our entire stroke falls apart. Our stroke rate. How fast is it that we are swimming? How fast is it, sorry, that our arms are turning over? Are we swimming with a really high stroke rate but a poor technique? Do we have a slower stroke rate? Do you use more force? What's the timing of our stroke? Where are our arms relative to our other arm? What's our kick doing? Is it kicking really wide? Is it a hard kick? Is it a big kick? Is it a small kick? Is it a kick under the water? Is it a kick at the surface of the water? Where's our head position? Are we looking straight bolt down at the bottom? Are we looking ever so slightly forward? Are we looking more forward? Okay. These are all considerations, things that we need to get the answer to, we need to understand. And this isn't a swimming masterclass. I can't take you through all of these in this episode. Sorry, this webinar. But we have 4 phases of the stroke I go through briefly. Hand entry, how a hand enters the water. So you want your hand to enter the water almost a full extension in front of your head. Don't have your hand come in really close to your head, because then your hand spends more time underwater. And the more time your hand spends under the water, the more resistance you encounter. The catch, which is where we have a nice high elbow and we push the water back. And we make sure that we get our arm in that nice vertical position. So if you look at my arm here, I've got an elbow nice and high. And we go from the hand entry to catch here. It's just this brief moment here before we then engage the pull. We push our arm all the way behind us. We're pushing the arm all the way until our thumb brushes our thigh, and then we bring it out of the water and back in to start another arm cycle. We do need a balance of technique and fitness. A mistake that some people make is they focus way too much on their technique and never actually do the hard work it takes to get faster. Equally, if you just think, I just want to get the distance in, I'm going to do loads of swimming, and you don't refine your technique at all, you're going to be wasting so much energy. And the Ironman swim really is a lesson in energy management. Okay, we want to get out of that water, we want to feel good, we want to feel strong. The Ironman bike. This is the meat and potatoes of your Ironman. You're going to spend more time on the bike, most likely, than you will in any other discipline. So it's not your average Sunday afternoon bike ride. We're not stopping off, taking photos, admiring the view. We are riding 180 kilometers over rolling terrain in all weather conditions, and we are pedaling non-stop for that time. Of course, there will be downhills, there will be corners where you back off a little bit, but we need to be an engine just turning these legs over and over and over. And if that feels exhausting, if that feels intimidating, it's because it is. We will have minimal mechanical support out on the course. If your bike breaks, you better know how to fix it. If it is a flat tire, they will not help you with a flat tire. There are roaming mechanics around on the course who will be traveling around in a van and they will help stranded athletes where they can, but they cannot provide you with all the spares that you need. They will be there to help you out where they can, and if they can't, they're going to move on to the next athlete. So you really do need to learn about your bike. You really do need to learn about how to fix basic problems, dropped chains, flat tires, issues with bits coming loose on the bike. You should have the tools, you should have the knowledge available to you to be able to fix these problems. We're going to be looking at, for the vast majority of people, 6+ hours in the saddle, probably more. It's a long day, and this is where you'll spend most of your time. You have up to 10.5 hours to complete the swim and the bike. So depending on how quickly you finish the swim, will depend on how much time you have left to finish the bike. So you can't afford to just ignore the swim and get around it in about 2 hours because that is really going to hurt you. You need to make sure, if we're training for an Ironman in a year, we might end up being flirting with these cut-offs. Okay, the deck is stacked against us. We've got to work hard. We need to make sure we give ourselves the biggest help that we can by having a decent swim. Aerodynamics and equipment choice are paramount here. Okay, if you go for a bike where you have an aero helmet and you have some deep section wheels and you really go to town to get yourself this bike that is going to be, comfortable, it's going to be fast, it's going to make an enormous difference as opposed to somebody there on a hybrid bicycle that does off-road and on-road but is really heavy and it's a bit clunky. This is going to cost you time hand over fist. So we need to pay a lot of attention. I do go to Ironman races myself as a competitor and supporting other athletes, and I see people wheeling these bikes into transition and thinking you are making your life so much harder. We need to make sure we've got the right bike for the job. So we need the right tools for the job. A road bike, again, I touched on, it is essential. It's light, it's fast, it's designed for riding on roads. It will be significantly faster than any other bikes out there. With the exception of a triathlon bike. Now, there's an example on the right. There's a chap lying down on his aero bars there. And what these are is they're extensions that come out the front of the bike. So there's no regular handlebars. Those replace the handlebars. And those on the end there you see shifters, and those allow him to change gear. The brakes, you can't see, they're out of shot, they're underneath on what's called the base bar. And he cannot brake from that position there. He has to get out of that locked in position there to brake. So why would somebody ride in a position like that? Well, because it's so much faster. It's aerodynamic, it's rapid, it will make life a lot easier for you. Just going to wet my whistle. Um, I highly recommend, yeah, I'm sorry, on the subject of triathlon bikes, they're really expensive. They're not suitable for most first timers. For some people, especially if you've got a year out, you might want to go down that road. You might get close to the event, really comfortable riding on the road and think, this Ironman is going to be my crowning moment. I'm going to get the triathlon bike. Cool. It's not for me to tell you how to spend your money, but for most people, it's unnecessary. And you'll probably be looking at doing your first on a road bike and then getting a triathlon bike when you know that this sport is for you and you fall in love with it. I highly recommend you get a bike from a bricks and mortar bike shop. If you are buying online, then you can end up getting the wrong bike, you can get the wrong size, it cannot be set up in the right way often. You want somebody to ask questions of what size bike do I need? What components do I need? What accessories do I need? Get their advice and get them to help you. Now, you may spend a small premium, but most shops, they'll do what's called a price match. So if you can show that there is a bike in stock in the same color, in the same size from another competitor and it's cheaper, they'll normally match that. Not always, but most of the time they will. But if you're not an experienced road cyclist, you don't want to be getting a bike from online. Pay that small premium, if there's any premium at all, to go down, support a local business, and get some real advice. Now, some people in bike shops, they are dicks, I'll be honest, and they can be very unwelcoming to first timers. If you have that experience, go find another bike shop. If you're buying a new bike, which I do recommend because then you've got a warranty, you know that it isn't cracked or damaged or anything like that. You'd be looking at spending at least £700 for a new road bike for these days. It was £500 when I started the sport back in 2012. It's gone up, inflation, COVID, all the usual excuses. Budget for accessories as well. I touched on this earlier, but you need to get helmet, you need to get pedals, you need to get all of these, and you can't afford to blow your budget on the bike and not have any money left over to actually look after the thing or ride it properly. Maintaining your bike is critical. We've spent a lot of moolah on this bike and we need to look after it because if we don't, it's going to cost us a lot of money. So you need to degrease your chain and re-lubricate it regularly. You need to learn how to fix a puncture. You're going to need to get regular servicing from a bike mechanic. So take it to a bike shop every 6 months or so. Probably a final tune-up ahead of the race. To make sure that everything is working correctly. Now, mechanics do make mistakes, so after you get a service, before you stick it on the plane to go to your race, take it out for a short ride, make sure it changes gears the way it's supposed to. Learn how to perform basic maintenance jobs on your own. If you're handy with tools, then you do need to, if things such as repairing a puncture, basic cleaning, tightening up bolts, stuff like that, cable management. These are jobs you can learn to do on your own. Now, I've coached an awful lot of people in my time. I've noticed that the ladies that I work with, they tend to be more reluctant about this. They find it too intimidating. But I've also worked with plenty who have got their heads around it and managed to learn it. You just need to sit down and you just need to think about it. Laterally watch videos online. GCN, Global Cycling Network, they have a series of YouTube videos called Maintenance Monday where they talk you through how to do most jobs on a bike. That is really helpful. And invest in the tools to be able to do it yourself because it's a lot cheaper than constantly going back and forth to the mechanic. Indoor training, I touched on this. We have here somebody riding a bike in their bedroom. The device that has replaced their rear wheel is an indoor trainer. Now, by having this indoor trainer, we can ride in all weathers. It doesn't matter how hard you are. If you wake up for a ride in January and it's 2 degrees and it's raining sideways, you are not going to want to go out on a bike, and that is going to result in missed sessions. Okay, we can't afford that. So we need to be able to ride our bike in all weathers, and indoor training is the best way to go about it. Also allows us to follow structured intervals. So if we are out riding, especially if we live in a city or we live somewhere really hilly, it can be very, very difficult for us to be able to follow a structured interval session. So the turbo trainer is the best way to go about this. We can get our head down, work really hard, don't have to worry about potholes, other road users, anything like that. We can train safely because we're not having to, as I said, look out for cars, for potholes. We just get our head down and do the work that we need to completely safely. It's very time efficient as well, especially in the colder months. If we are having to put on 3 layers of clothing, put the mud guards on our bike, clean it after each session, jump through all of these hoops every time we take the bike out, it's so much quicker to just wake up one morning, put your cycling shoes on, head downstairs, throw your bib shorts on, jump on the bike and start your session. So for those who work full time, which I think is probably going to be most of us listening to this, it is super efficient and you can get a lot of work done in a lot more work done in an hour in an indoor session you could with an outdoor session. It allows us to train with power. So this allows us when we're cycling, our indoor trainer, assuming that it is a modern one, a smart trainer, it will measure how much force we're putting through the pedals and how fast it is that we're cycling, we're pedaling. This gives us a figure called that is represented in watts, and we can do fitness tests to find out what our functional threshold power or FTP is, and we can then ride workouts set as a percentage of that to make sure that we're targeting the right energy systems. Indoor training is ideal for those who live in cities. And on different bits of software that are available, they have a good level of community. They have group rides, they have races. You can ride around these virtual worlds with thousands of other cyclists and feel that you're part of something. You're not just there in your living room, in your kitchen, in your garage, on your own, pedaling into infinity. I'm a big fan. Then we have the Ironman run. It's just a little marathon. It's fine. Don't need to worry about it. It's funny because the Ironman, the marathon when I was growing up was the ultimate test of fitness. Now it's marathon, and the run is just the epilogue. So the Ironman run, it really is more of a war of attrition than a race. Some of you may be watching this. You may be marathon finishers. A road marathon is completely different to an Ironman marathon. A Ironman marathon is a war of survival. You are starting your run with a minimum, absolute bare minimum of about 6, 7 hours in your legs already. You are not going to be running anywhere near your max. Your sort of your best marathon time. It is going to be a case of just try not to walk. And honestly, when you're taking on your first Ironman marathon, there will be walking involved. I can almost guarantee it. I think there's only been one athlete I've ever coached who didn't walk a single step in their first Ironman, which is quite remarkable. But it's there's minimal correlation between your 5K time and the Ironman marathon. When I did my first Ironman, I could run a 5K in under 18 minutes. Okay, my Ironman time was about 5.5 hours, 5 hours 20, something like that. It wasn't good. It wasn't pretty. Okay, so this real focus on hard intervals, working hard all the time, it doesn't work for Ironman training. If you are the kind of athlete who enjoys doing loads of intervals, loads of hard work, loads of intensity, find another distance. You'll be so much better at that distance than the Ironman. Okay, the Ironman, it just involves a lot of long, steady training. And if you think about, well, if I told you, hey, can you go out and can you ride your bike for 17 hours? Would you go out and ride really hard? No, you wouldn't. You would go out and you would be pedaling really slowly. You'd be taking it really easy, pacing yourself. So that pace is what we're going to race at. Now, there is a place in our training plan. Of course, there's a place for intervals, for speed work, for that kind of training. But for the most part, we need to be doing most of our training easy. A lot of professional athletes, 90% of their training is done easy. Because if you need to fit in 30, 40 hours of training a week, you can't be going hard every session. Your body will break down. Usually it's a 4-lap run course for the Ironman marathon. So you break it down to 4 10Ks in your head with a little bit on the end. The first lap is normally your first lap where you feel out the course. The second lap is when you really sort of get into your stride a little bit. The third lap is really rough, and your fourth lap is the victory lap. So you do need to make sure that you are you're preparing to break it down and handle the mental game, which can be ridiculously hard in an Ironman. Ironman themselves, they talk about Ironman being 90% mental. I do have an issue with that because you do get people who are completely and woefully unprepared for Ironman who will sign up because it's all mental, it's all in your head. No, you've got to do a boatload of training as well. The mental part of it is a massive aspect, but you still need that fitness. And by the time we get to the Ironman run, it can be much about your nutrition as it will be your legs. You would have been out there on the course again, like bare minimum, like 6, 7 hours, probably for some of you closer to sort of 10.5 hours before you start the run. Okay, your stomach is going to be quite unsettled by this point, and it's going to be managing that to make sure that you can run without feeling nauseous, without developing diarrhea and the like. We get into that in a bit. Training for the run, I touched on this a bit previously. Running more is the best way to prepare, but it needs to be introduced gently. If you are very new to running and we're just running 1 minute blocks, the more that you run, the more likely you are to get injured. Now, I think we all know somebody who's taken up running and then they got injured and they've been really frustrated. And this is often because they get carried away. They put too much load on their tendons, their muscles get really tight, they start pulling on the tendons, they do too much running, overload the body, and they end up with a problem with their Achilles tendon or they end up with knee pain. So we need to introduce and increase our running volume gently. You need to be slowly. It should be frustrating. You should be running frustratingly slow and frustratingly little. Because we are preparing. We have a year to prepare the body, so we don't need to massively rush into this. Okay. Now we can't neglect speed work. We can't just do all of our running nice and slow. We do need hills. We do need VO2 intervals. We do need threshold work. Might do a little bit of tempo work in there as well. All these different intensities. Okay, we need to be able to build these up. The weekly long run is going to be our key session. Most weeks you should be doing a long run. And this should increase every week with a rest week every fourth week, where we dial back the length of these sessions. But that is the key session because we are getting ourselves ready to run a marathon. We should be looking at our long runs being about 2.5 hours, maybe more by the time we get closer to race day. And the vast majority of your runs, they should feel relaxed. You should not be there working, trying to show off, trying to be the big man, trying to impress everybody around you, speeding up when you think somebody's going to overtake you at the local park. Okay, this is going to ruin your race. You should feel relaxed. You should feel like you can chat with somebody. And for most Ironman athletes, injury is the biggest concern. It's the biggest hurdle to them achieving their goals. It's getting injured, which is why how you increase your run training and your run volume over time really, really matters. Speaking of injury, strength training. This is one of the best ways, alongside volume management, one of the best ways to reduce your risk of injury. It is a non-negotiable. It isn't something that I recommend you do. If you are training for an Ironman from scratch in 1 year, you need to do this. The reason is, most of us, we're very tight and we're very weak in areas, especially sort of surrounding our hips and our hamstrings, sometimes our chest as well. Issues with our neck from all these years of sitting down at a desk or just sitting down watching TV or if you do manual labor, you may, I mean, I worked in the film industry and I carried lights around all day in really hot temperatures quite often. You are going to end up with tightness with imbalances. We pick these up as we go through life. And if we then try to go out and we try to put our body through a huge amount of strain, training for an Ironman for within a year, we've only got 1 year to take on this Ironman, then we are going to run the risk of getting injured. We need to make sure that we are using strength training, we're stretching, we're using mobility exercises, because most of that injury is a result of muscular imbalances or muscles get really tight, really strong, and they pull on tendons. A lot of people's knee pain comes because they have really tight quads, so those are the muscles at the front of your thigh, and really weak hamstrings, which are the muscles on the back of your thigh. As a result, this comes a lot from cycling. You end up with really strong quads that pull on the kneecap, and the hamstring is too weak to pull back and to be able to manage that. People end up with knee pain. Just one example. Now, with strength training, 1 to 2 sessions a week is all you need. For most athletes, train twice a week. On the when we're sort of about up to about 6 months out from the race, then once we're less than 6 months to go, we drop it down to 1 session a week as we focus on our swimming, cycling, running, and we also include all of the different phases of training. So we start off with light weights and we're doing lots of reps, getting used to the movements. Then we're doing a max strength block where we're lifting really heavy weights. And we're going to finish this off with some strength maintenance and race preparation work. If you're worried about looking really big and strong and butch from doing strength training, you don't need to worry because we're not eating enough. We're not training in the way that's going to stimulate that. If you look at this lovely lady here who's doing a bent over row, I believe, she looks healthy, she looks fit, she looks strong. She doesn't look like an absolute beefcake, okay? And you won't either. In fact, you chat to some bodybuilders about this, and it's almost an insult to them to suggest that we might accidentally look like them if we go to the gym twice a week, whereas they're there 5, 6 days a week and their entire life revolves around these goals. You know, we're not going to end up there accidentally. Race day nutrition, fueling your race. This is going to make or break your race. If you get your nutrition wrong, you will not finish your event. We need to fuel our effort. Now, you could be out there for 17 hours. Now, imagine if you woke up and you had a lazy Sunday. Get out of bed about 8 or 9. Potter around the house. Do something in the garden. Sit around. Spend some quality time with the family in the afternoon. Then you're watching the Antiques Roadshow. Over your dinner and you head to bed. How much food are you eating over that day? How many calories over that day? Then, when you consider the amount of exertion that we're going to be undertaking, what it is that we're going to be asking of our body, we're going to need to probably eat double that. So we do need to really shovel food down our necks when we're training and racing. Carbs are king due to their ease of digestion, ease of transportation, and the fact they're affordable. If you're out there and you are riding on the Ironman course, I don't want you having to pull a bit of beef jerky or a boiled egg out of your jersey pocket. It's going to be rancid, it's going to be disgusting, it's going to turn your stomach, it's going to be hard to digest, okay? We are looking to take on a lot of simple sugars. We can have some levels of fat, of protein. We can touch on these other areas, but most of your race day fuel will be sugar based because that is really quickly turned into energy. It's easy to digest, and it will really, if you find yourself at a point where you're starting to run out of energy, if you have yourself an energy gel, if you have yourself something sugary, it will really bring you out of that and go, wow, like this is what I need. You know, this is what the body's asking for, fast energy. But as a result, you're going to burn through the energy quite fast, and you do really run the risk of burning out if you don't have enough. Again, you talk here, marathon runners talk about hitting the wall. Quite often, this is because they don't eat enough. They can get through a half marathon kind of on fumes, take on a full marathon, and they don't eat enough, and their body just shuts down on them. If your body doesn't have the energy it needs, it's like trying to run a car without petrol or charging it. It just will not work. And real food does have an important part to play over an Ironman. Over a half Ironman, you might be looking more at sugar-based, almost exclusively. Some athletes even go for a liquid-based approach where they just have sort of sugar water, which you can get. But real food has a massive, massive part to play for most athletes, especially those who are going to be flirting with the cut-offs. So if you're going to be out there for 17 hours, that's a long time to just get by on sugary snacks. And one of my athletes did Ironman Wales last year. He did an interview on my podcast where he talked about how a sausage roll saved his life on the run. He just needed something salty, bit of protein, something to break up having just those gels and that sugar. Then we have our day-to-day nutrition to consider. If we are taking on an Ironman, we need to optimize all these areas of our life. I'm not going to ask you to track your food to count the calories because we're not here to lose weight. We're here to be healthy. And in fact, most triathletes aren't eating enough. And today I could put myself in that boat because I was absolutely starving by the time I got to like 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, I just hadn't eaten enough for breakfast or for dinner the night before to support my training and my recovery. Pre and post workout fueling is critical. Before workout, we need to make sure we have enough calories, enough carbohydrates to get through our session. After the workout, we need to replace the glycogen stores that we've burnt with carbohydrates, and we also need to make sure we're getting enough protein to be able to fuel our recovery. Without these, you wouldn't actually get any fitter. You'll just be running yourself into the ground. It's important to get the right balance of macronutrients. So we'll be looking for about 30% of our daily intake from fats, saturated fats, unsaturated fats. And then the rest we're going to be splitting between carbohydrates and we're going to be splitting and protein. So it is depending on the day that you have, what your goals are at the moment is going to depend on how we get that balance right. But we need to make sure that we are getting this right, that we're not going too carb heavy, that we're not ignoring carbs. If you are somebody who is on a low carb diet, that will not work for Ironman. You need to change that approach, otherwise you will fail to finish. And this is not the time to aim for a calorific deficit. If you're training for an Ironman in a year, now there will come a point in the year when we probably get about 4 months out from our race, where we are simply doing too much training for us to eat enough to replace all the calories we burn, and we will lose weight automatically. But when we're taking on this journey, even if weight loss is one of your motivators for doing this, you need to focus on the goal. You need to focus on your efforts rather than saying, oh, I'm doing this to lose weight. Now, touched on an awful lot here. I think we're about an hour in already. Strength training, nutrition. We've got intervals that we're going to be doing, injury, illness, recovery, the logistics of it all, your swimming technique, the equipment, planning your training. This is the world's most complex sport. There is no way of getting around it. There is so much to learn, and we have to be good at every single discipline if we're going to become an Ironman. And there are a lot of other unseen time sinks. So you've got your planning your training, researching the latest training methods. You will find yourself reading magazines, watching YouTube videos, trying to find out the best way to train, the sessions you should be doing. When you're trying to find out something, you'll be spending a lot of time on YouTube, going through, trying to get answers to your questions. You can waste hours here. You can hopefully buy yourself some sort of textbooks, some real sort of sit down and read, learn about the sport, and poring over your training data for hours, looking at your heart rate, looking at your power, looking at your speed, your pace. How does that compare to the last session? Okay, this can really take over your life. Now, if you are 18 years old, you're unemployed, and you're taking on an Ironman because it is something you want to do before you go to university, cool, you'll have all the time in the world for this. Most of us, we're parents, we're employees, we're business owners, we're often sort of the children, perhaps of older parents who we're having to sort of step up and help sometimes. We're husbands, we're wives, we're partners, boyfriends, girlfriends. We've got a lot else going on in our life. Now, you can follow a training plan. So this is a one size fits all approach. And I've got training plans exclusively for athletes who are looking to take on their first Ironman. So you can buy one off the shelf. It's delivered from me. It's delivered via Training Peaks. So this is the world leader in triathlon software. It will send the workouts. The workouts that I set will be set to your fitness level. So you'll have a fitness baseline, and the sessions that are set will use your fitness baseline to be able to calculate different paces and targets for you. Those targets are then sent to your watch or your cycle computer or your indoor training platform with targets for you to follow. So it becomes a sort of a self-fulfilling, constantly updating itself sort of program where Training Peaks will keep sending you all these personalized workouts day in, day out. There's also, when it comes to strength training, there's videos and instructions for every single exercise. The training plan includes, swimming, cycling, running, and strength. I include a free triathlon training guide in there. It talks about swim technique, it talks about nutrition, it talks about what to do if you're feeling ill, how to handle missed sessions. It really kind of helps steer you through this because the big downside to a training plan is it's rigid with no support. So once you buy it, there's not a huge amount of support that you get from me or anybody else who's going to sell you a training plan. Might be able to answer some simple questions via email, especially about the functionality of the plan. But these plans from £108 for a 52-week plan, and that does get cheaper if your plan is shorter, of course, but we're working on the basis we have a year to prepare. On the other side of things, I have my bespoke coaching where you'll have full support, daily contact with me, analysis and comments after the workouts, training plan written weekly, regular catch-up calls. You message me as much as you like. £250 a month. Okay, we're not going to try and sell you that because for a lot of people, they look at that and they go, that's I can't justify that," and that's fine. Not everybody has those sorts of resources. I think it offers good value personally, considering my experience and my education, but it doesn't change the matter that it's out of reach of many people. They've even got my premium coaching, £400 a month. Again, just that extra level of support there. But I'm not going to try to sell you that. Oh, I didn't mean to have that in there. There we go. There's an image of my bookshelf from a previous webinar which I edited, which just sort of it covers. That's where a lot of my knowledge has come from. I'm here to talk to you about the middle ground. So if we have £250 a month or £108, that's a massive difference because £250 a month over a year, we're looking at sort of, I can't do the maths off the top of my head there. I should really know that, shouldn't I? We're looking at four figures. Well, multiple four figures. It is something that a lot of people, they just cannot justify. So I've created coach training plans. And this, I believe, is a good solution to the problem. So a coach training plan, what is it? Well, I'm the only person I know that offers this. It's a budget-friendly approach to be able to help you prepare for your event. So we start with an off-the-shelf training plan. So I take one of the plans that I've written. All these plans are written in 1 week increments. So I've got a 52-week plan, a 51-week, a 50-week, 49, 48, 47, 46. You tell me, Simon, I've got however many weeks it is to my event. Okay, here is the plan. And I then customize that around you. So if you say Sunday, it's a family day, it's a non-negotiable. I have to have Sundays off. I go, okay, well we'll do the long ride on Saturday and the long run will just have to sort of fit into the week as and when we can. It could be that you say, oh, I swim with a club every Monday. Cool, we can do that. I can build the plan around that. Or you could say, actually, I'm a pretty decent runner. I'm new to triathlon, but I've done loads of running before or loads of cycling. Used to be a swimmer when I was a kid. And this plan you've given me is too easy. It's way too easy. And I go, that's no problem. Let's put some more challenging workouts in there for you. Because this is customized around you. Now, the reason I've done it this way is because creating a plan from scratch is really quite time consuming. It's a lot easier for me to move workouts around in a calendar. Whereas it could take me 20 minutes to write a week of training from scratch. It might only take me a minute to rearrange some workouts and drag and drop a few bits around the calendar. So it takes up a lot less of my time, which brings the price right down. We get a monthly catch up to plan the next month of training. So at the end of each month, you tell me, hey, like this went really well. I'd like to do a little bit more of this, or I've really struggled with this aspect of the swimming. I've got some questions around this. I've got a wedding coming up. I'm away with work. You let me know what's going on, and I will then build the training plan. I'll build, rearrange things to work around that. Well, it looks like we're going to move our recovery week forward a bit. You're away for a social event, for a stag do. So let's then move that to that weekend, bring that around, add that. What do you think of that? Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, it's a process. We work together through it, and you're working with me personally on these. We also include a coach session. So this is covering such nutrition, swim technique, race planning. I don't know why the word "gets" is on the end there, but these are 13 sessions where I sit down with you for about half an hour, 45 minutes to go over a specific topic. So I'm going to cover those in a little bit. In fact, here they are on the next screen. First session, how to get kitted out, make sure you get the right equipment. Second session, stroke analysis. Send me a video of you swimming and I tell you where it is that we can improve. Third session, a mobility assessment. We perform some mobility assessments. You film yourself, send it over to me, and I will then be able to analyze that and be able to feedback on you on areas that you're tight, that you're weak, where we might need to change the strength plan to fit around you and how your body currently sits. We're going to look at a session on sports science, so you understand the why behind the training. A session on day-to-day nutrition, so how to make sure that you're getting a right balanced diet to support our immune system and our energy levels. A session on sports nutrition, what it is that we're going to be eating during our training, and our race day as well. Create a plan for that. Open water swimming. We're going to be looking at how to put a wetsuit on. We're going to be looking at how to sight when we're swimming to make sure we're swimming in a straight line. How to get used to swimming around other people. How to manage the cold. How to make this transition from the pool to open water. We're going to cover sports psychology. Now, I'm not a sports psychologist, and I can't go into too much detail. I will refer you out if I need to. But we're going to be talking about race day nerves and anxiety and how to approach things from a sort of a mental perspective to help make sure that you're not just setting yourself up for failure before you even start. We're covering your bike setup. What kind of gearing is it that we're going to want? What tyres are we going to be running? What's the all of these elements here? Where our bottles going to go? Cover all of this to make sure that our bike is race day ready. We're going to do a course analysis together. Where are the hills? Where are the aid stations? What's the temperature normally like? Are there any really difficult corners that we need to be aware of? Race planning, what's our target going to be on the bike? How are we going to approach it? What is it that we're going to be eating on the day? How is it we're getting there? Let's look at the schedule. Let's look at the itinerary. This logistical element is really underrated. And if you get this wrong, you might even make the race start. If you don't get there with enough time to sort everything out, you don't start. All of that time gone to waste. Race briefing. In the days before the event, we'll have one final call. You can ask me your last minute questions, share with me weather updates, and I can help talk you through and just kind of try my very best to put your fears at ease, put your mind at ease, help talk down any fears that have arrived. Throw in some added extras to really enhance this experience. So it's a free Training Peaks premium upgrade for advanced data analytics and the Training Peaks virtual platform. So I talked about the indoor cycling. Training Peaks, they have their own platform. You can ride around in their virtual world, do their races, do their group rides, follow structured workouts on there. That's all available for you, and I cover the cost of that, as well as you being able to see all of your data, move sessions around the calendar. I include that. Collection of triathlon courses. So I've spent, months writing these courses on nutrition, strength training, swim technique, hill climbing. So that's how to ride up a hill on your bike. I cover all sorts of subjects surrounding triathlon. So you can sit and you can enjoy these. I have an app that you can download and you can learn on the go to really help ensure that you are, putting yourself in the best position. Because I do believe knowledge is power. And if we are training for an Ironman in a year, we need to cram. We need to do a lot of reading, a lot of research. And I also include my triathlon training guide and Training Peaks for Triathlete short courses in there. These are free anyway, but these help you understand how to use Training Peaks because it can be quite confusing. Training Peaks, there's a lot of data there. It is used by world-class athletes. Help you understand things such as how to get workouts sent to your watch, how it is that we're going to set thresholds, how to do basic troubleshooting, create an account, stuff like that. And the triathlon training guide should hopefully be able to help answer questions for you between the coach sessions that we have. So unfortunately, at this price point, you can't just message and chat to me out of the blue. That's more where the bespoke coaching comes in. So the value of all these components, the 52-week training plan, £108 on its own. 52 weeks of Training Peaks Premium be 156. Triathlon courses, they come to 280, and the 13 coach sessions, £975. So that's £1,519 in total value from this program. You get that all for £800. £800. That's 1,100 US dollars. 950 euros. That's the total cost of the program. It's your training plan, your nutrition, your strength, your swim technique, race planning from only £15 per week. In some cases, it's probably less than you paid for your entry into your race. But, well, what if you have less than 52 weeks to go? I can't imagine there's going to be a huge amount of people who are listening to this with exactly 52 weeks to go. Well, I have a 51-week version, 790, 50, 780. They get £10 cheaper for each week of training. all the way down to 24 weeks at £520. So if you're 6 months out, I don't do any of these Ironman from scratch plans shorter than 6 months because you can't train for an Ironman from scratch in less than 6 months. I'd be setting people up for frustration, setting them up for failure. But if you have less than a year to go, but you're just watching this because you want to learn, I have a program available for you. Unless you got less than 6 months to go, in which case, good luck. What else would £800 get you in the sport? Well, it might get you one mid-range deep section wheel. Might save you a couple of minutes on the bike course. That. Your flights and accommodation, probably going to come to more than that. 4 months membership at a health club, a lot of expensive gyms, round about sort of £200 a month, if not more. Less than 1 month of coaching with a top coach. A lot of the best triathlon coaches in the game, they will charge £1,000 a month. Or 2 months of my premium coaching, you're getting a year's worth for 2 months of that premium price. So let's weigh up the costs. How much are we looking at for doing our event? Because you may be looking at this not entered and going, well, how is it that I get started in the sport? Your entry these days, you're looking about £600 for your entry. Now, Ironman do a tier system where tier one, it normally goes on sale to those who pre-register or who get their entry at last year's event. It goes and it increases all the way up to tier four when it gets really expensive. So, and that the price does vary from race to race, region to region. So I can't give you a hard figure, but £600 plus is generally speaking the going rate for an Ironman these days. Your bike, £700 plus. Again, that's new. You can get a deal second hand. Your wetsuit, at least £400 for an Ironman. You don't want to go for a bargain basement wetsuit. Probably goes to £500 these days. Pool fees, I've based that on 2 swims a week at £7 a swim. £714 for a year's worth of swimming. You got all your clothing, all your shoes, your bike components, power meters, GPS watches. It's quite easy for some people to spend 10 grand on an Ironman without really thinking about it. Just a bit here, a bit there, this bit of equipment, that here. £800 relative to all that, or even less. It's not really a huge amount, is it? The reservations that people have is that, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to work with a coach. Well, this program is written for you because everyone has to start somewhere. It's not like someone's like oh, I'm too new for driving lessons. In the same way you can't be too new to hire a triathlon coach. There are no assumptions made with this program. As long as you can swim a length of the pool, as long as you can run for 1 minute and ride a bike for 30 minutes, we will make it work. I've put together so much educational material to help you understand what it takes to get started, and I'll be here with you to help you along with your journey. You won't be embarrassing yourself, and you're certainly not going to waste my time. Okay, so if you're there thinking, oh, that sounds really good, I'm not sure it's for me. It is for you. I want to do it myself, letting the ego take over. That's the other major objection that people have to this. If you want to do it all yourself, this is an enormous roll of the dice. You really need to hope that you get everything right, because this is the group that are most likely to fail to finish their event. I work with my bespoke coaching with a lot of people who are CEOs, they're executives, and they're the group most likely to hire me. A, because they have the funds and the resources to do so, but also these are people who hire consultants. If they're at work and they have a problem, they bring in external help and they ask consultants, how do we fix this problem? They do the same with Ironman. They go, I'm training for this massive event. I don't know where to start. I need to get some help. Whereas it's people who are that rung below, the more middle management types who maybe feel they've got something to prove. These are the ones most likely to fail to finish because they don't want to ask for help. They think they'd rather do it themselves. But you cannot get through an Ironman with brute force and ignorance. Shorter distances, sure, you can. You can mess around, you can make mistakes, you can drag yourself over the line. Even a half Ironman, you can probably blag your way through, make a lot of mistakes. But a full Ironman, can you imagine spending a year talking yourself up, doing all the training, riding into work, having all the merchandise, chatting up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, it's going to change my life. Then I have to get back and tell everyone, yeah, I didn't finish. That's going to bruise your ego far more than reaching out to a coach such as myself and saying, hey, can you give me a bit of guidance, please? We need to reframe coaching. It's triathlon insurance. If you look at the amount of hours you're putting in, if we're putting in, I mean, most of the plans that I do, they start around about 3, 4 hours a week, but it goes up to 15. If you're investing that much time in your training, you cannot afford to just leave it up to chance. And hiring a coach is a bit like taking out an insurance policy because the chances of you, it assures, it almost guarantees that you're going to finish if you have that level of support. Now, I can never guarantee that you will finish because certain things are out of my control. In the same way that you can never guarantee that insurance is going to pay out. They'll probably pay out, but they always try something. So again, a coaching like insurance is never a guarantee, but it is something you can do to hedge your bets. You would not take your brand new sports car out and thrash it around without any insurance, because you know that if you total that, all of the hours of hard work you put in to afford that are going to go out the window. So why would you risk putting in all these hours of training only to run the risk of all of this going out the window? So I recommend you sign up today. How to take the next steps? Well, there's a button or a link, depending on where you are accessing this webinar, underneath. Click on Coach Training Plan. That is going to take you to a screen where it's going to take you through all of my coach training plans that I have on offer. You can email me at simon@phasontriathlon.com. You can book a free call with me as well. I'm going to leave that link down there underneath the webinar as well. So you can book a free 50-minute call with me, chat over, is this right for me? What does it involve? Ask your questions. I'm also going to have some links below to my training plans and bespoke coaching. Because it may be you go, you know what, I like this guy, Simon, but there's no way that I can afford £800. You can, by the way, I should point out, you can spread the cost of this. There is financing available at the checkout. You do have to get an external credit check. I can't provide credit myself. I'm just a small business. I'm not a bank. You can put it on credit that way, 0%. But even if you go, look, £15 a month, I just can't justify that at the moment. I'm doing it all on an absolute shoestring. But I do like Simon. I want to get his training plan. I'm going to have a link there to take you to that as well. You can save 10% from making it all the way to the end and not navigating away. Save 10% off of this with the code IRONMAN10. This makes the program less than £14 a week to cover everything that you need. £720 for everything you could possibly need to take on your first Ironman. Hope that was useful. If you've got any questions, feel free to send me a message. If you don't subscribe to my podcast already, but you want to keep in touch, Age Group Triathlon Podcast, search it in Spotify, search it on Apple Podcasts. And I really am wishing you the very best of luck with your event. Again, do just drop me an email if you've got any questions as part of a follow-up to this. I'm wishing you all the very best with your Ironman in your training.